And here with today's Film and TV News is Arise correspondent Judita De Silva, who joins me once again from our studios in London. Hi, Judita. Great to have you back. So now let's waste no time and get straight into television. So Netflix has made, the unprecedented move of removing one of its very, very popular shows because of public objection. Tell us about that.
Okay, so there's this comedy series called Patriot Act with Hassan Minhaj. He's one of the contributors to the Today Show with Trevor Noah. And so one of the episodes in the series, he launches an attack, like an obviously satirical attack on Saudi Arabian officials and also the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia surrounding the dealing of the murder of the journalist Jamal Khashoggi. So what had happened is that a legal demand was made to Netflix that that episode be pulled and removed from the platform in Netflix in Saudi Arabia, and they actually did it. And Netflix said that they released a statement that although they support the freedom of expression of artists, they have to comply with local laws. And the key is that this series, it will still be available on the YouTube for the actual show of the Patriot Act. So Saudi Arabian audiences can still see it there, but it's just the second episode in the series. The rest of the series is still available. And obviously in other territories for Netflix, the whole series is available.
Wow, this is interesting, but the thing is fans are not finding this funny. So do you think, looking at the fact that we spoke last year that Netflix was trying to become more global, they were reaching out to other areas to see how they can pull content from there. Would you really say this is a move that was necessary, or perhaps they just had more to lose staying in this?
I think that, yeah, it's like you said, it's exactly that. It's one of those business decisions that you can't exactly rub up the local authorities the wrong way if you're trying to expand into that territory. And we all know the Middle East is very pernickety about things that make them look bad in international eyes because they have their own rules and diktats, and they won't be dictated to by anybody else's opinion. But what has riled people is that when it comes to art, particularly comedy, they don't like it being under fire because it's the last bastion for freedom of expression, satirical freedom of expression. And people were comparing it to the McCarthy era when people were accused of being communists and there was blackballing in Hollywood. And then they were comparing it to the time where the Seth Rogen and James Franco film, The Interview, was pulled because the North Korean leader said it was an act of war to have a film that depicted a fictional situation where a North Korean leader was an assassination was being planned. But they're saying that where do you draw the line? Because at the end of the day, it's entertainment and everybody has to suspend their disbelief to some level. But this directly comments on a real life event and real life people. And at the end of the day, they said it was in breach of the cyber laws in Saudi Arabia. So they have to comply with that. You can't break the law and expect to do business in the country.
Absolutely. All right, now let's talk about someone who's getting really, really excited, and it is finally about True Detective. So we finally got the first screening of, season 3 of True Detective, and the truth is, critics are absolutely loving it. But then we're wondering, Judita, looking at you, what do you think about it?
Okay, so the thing is, this is such a relief because there was big anticipation for it. On the back of actor Mashallah Ali, who won his Academy Award for Moonlight a couple of years ago, it was then announced, they made the announcement that he was going to be the star of this third series. But the key about True Detective is the first season, they're always smart. The first season came on the back of that year. It starred Matthew McConaughey and Woody Harrelson. It came on the back of the year when Matthew McConaughey had done Dallas Buyers Club and had won the Oscar. So they always kind of ride the crest of the wave of the level of talents they have in their show. And it was an absolute it had critical acclaim, and it was an excellent show. Then they had the second season that had Vince Vaughn and Colin Farrell, and it was a bit of a train wreck. And nobody liked it, and they said, oh, it must have been just a flash in the pan, they can't do it again. But they have. Season 3 is balanced. They've stripped it back to basics. The acting is essential. And what they've done is that they returned to those old school style dramas where it's about the story and it's about the characters. You think of things like NYPD Blue. And remember that this is on the HBO network that gives us Game of Thrones. So they have the budgets to do it well. So to have such a controlled production where they're not being excessive, critics really warm to that. And I really like that because it was all about the story, about this detective, that it's like like in the first season, it time jumps between present and past, where he's now an old man and he's looking back on remembering a case he wasn't able to solve, where there was a murdered boy and a missing girl. But I won't tell you anymore because you really should watch it.
Oh, really? Juditha, we're literally just about to go get the popcorn. Like, oh my gosh, keep talking. Let's know more about this. Okay, now, Juditha, I agree with you. It's amazing. But then, you know that thing they say in TV about, you know, in real life, you might say less is more, but in TV, less is not more. Go big or go home. Do you think maybe True Detective might want to capitalize on that? Like you said, I mean, this is HBO. They can afford to do whatever. So why go little when you can go overboard? You know, so do you think they might just capitalize on that theory?
This is the strange thing about that. It's that they're actually spending the money, but not in a way that's so visual. Like you can see in Game of Thrones where the budget is going. The production sets are so huge and elaborate. They're spending money on the talent. Because remember, they got Mahershala Ali on the back of an Oscar, and they say that the unspoken truth of that is when you win an Oscar, you can add a zero onto the end of your paychecks. So they're spending money on the writers, on the talent. That's where the budget is going. And they've got enough stuff that if you invest in something being done well, this is going to be one of their shows on the network that it's all about quality and talent, whereas Game of Thrones is about big bang and gloss. So they're showing that as an offering, they have an entire spectrum of entertainment.
Oh, geez, I would really, really like to be like, you know, Mahershala Ali's, you know, maybe sidekick. Like, okay, look, I won the Oscar, but she was right there, so give her the job. Okay, now, so let's go away from this to somebody else who was doing really, really good, and that's Warner Brothers. So I don't really know why and how this came about. I mean, literally, what everybody had been talking about was the Disney-Fox merger. Nobody saw this one coming, and it just hits us in the face. So they opened 2019 with a very, very large purchase. And can you please give us the details of this big bucks?
Okay, so exactly what you said. They were like the sleeping giants. While everyone's focusing on Disney, Warner was making this deal. So it's basically they've now bought Rat Pack Dune Entertainment. Rat Pack is owned by Brett Ratner, who's a director, a music video director. You'll know him as the man behind lots of Mariah Carey's big budget videos, and James Packer, the billionaire who never made it down the aisle with Mariah. So what they've done is that they've now sold it, and what Warner Brothers now has is a 15 to 25% stake in all of the 76 films that Rat Pack Dune co-financed. So when you think about it, these films would include Oscar winner Gravity. Let me give you some other names. You've got Wonder Woman, It, Batman vs. Superman, Mad Max Fury Road, Justice League, Dunkirk, Creed, Godzilla. They've all got a stake in those movies now. So they're just going to be picking up residuals on when those things are franchised out or sold and distributed. And the great thing about this is that by expanding their outlook, they're now looking like the big contenders for 2019 are going to be conglomerates, like we have Disney and Fox. We have now Warner and Rat Pack Dune. These are people that are showing that you have to have more meat to your industry and more meat to your federation in order to be able to compete on high-level entertainment, because people want so much of so many different kinds. If you don't have the breadth to deliver, you're just going to disappear.
You know what? That is so true and so scary. But then I have two questions. The first one is, looking at Rat Pack, now we're looking at the likes of Wonder Woman. We know that we're getting another one. Looking at Creed, although we know that, you know, we're not going to get every single cast from Creed, but we do know that we're going to get another one because the original main star of Creed has said he doesn't want to come back because he has, you know, just done his run. So with regards to the other movies, though, that have happened, they're dusted, people have watched it, they enjoyed it, that's it. Do you think they can really, really benefit much from those? I mean, they do have a number of movies, but then the question is, how much can they actually benefit, seeing as not all these movies are going to get sequels, and some of these movies were released a couple of years ago, maybe a year or two, so they might not really have as much traction as they did. So is this really the big plan?
This is the thing. what they've now acquired, as opposed to having fresh investments for franchising and stuff that grow, they have that in things like Wonder Woman, Aquaman, the Justice League. They've got stuff, they've got it in that. But what they're getting now, by having a percentage stake in all of those films, when they're now bought by, should it be the Disney Plus platform or Amazon Prime or Netflix, they get a cut. If it's shown on television, they get a cut. If it's sold to other territories like Africa, they get a cut. What Warner Brothers is investing in is making money without having to do any work. So this initial investment, which people are saying was between 290 to 300 million, they're going to make the money back, because when I just named those kinds of titles, those are the titles that have longevity and future viewership, because over the next years, whatever platform you offer them on, people are going to want to watch it.
Okay, now that makes me understand it a lot better, but then I do have one more question, because I'm a bit emotional and biased when it comes to Marvel, because of course everybody loves Stan Lee, but I'm worried because we're seeing a lot of different mergers, you know, and as great as Marvel is, these mergers are coming on really, really strong, and they're acquiring great movies as well. Now, we don't have Stan Lee anymore, and of course, Stan Lee, we cannot dispute the fact that he brought so much to the table and the creativity behind Marvel. So is it possible, in any way, shape, or form, that we might just look at Marvel as it was, not as it should be, in the sense that people might look back and say, Marvel, you know, they used to be so good, but now you have Disney, Fox, you have, you know, Warner, Rat Pack. Is this something that might just happen? I mean, if Stan Lee was still alive, maybe not. But seeing as he isn't, is this something that may just hit us in the near future?
You're basically preaching the gospel right now, because that very well could happen. Because as you said, when you've got so many big contenders in the same ring, what you end up with is oversaturation. People get tired of that. And what we've noticed is that Marvel can be very formulaic, and they kind of know the ABCs of how to make a Marvel movie. But then what they noticed, they landed on with gold last year when you look at something like Venom and something like Black Panther, is that they know diversity will work in their favor and the anti-hero will work in their favor. So when not always going positive and having the perfect red bow and happy ending at the end is not something that the viewers need. You've got to trust in the ability of your viewer to embrace and consume reality and realism. And so if Marvel is smart and is not too myopic and too scared of change, they can push the longevity of their products. But if they do the very American thing, which is stick to what works, you're absolutely right. They could die out, and soon we'll be having a conversation about, remember Marvel?
I know,
Weren't they nice?
That is a conversation that will just break my heart. But don't worry, it's a Rise 360, you know. We'll make it nice regardless. Anyway, so let's talk about another giant, streaming giant that is, and that will have to be Netflix. So now we hear that they've gotten fans really, really upset, because as much as the power of fans seems to be really, really growing really major, Netflix may just not be able to stand that. So they had their description of, you know, the Avengers Infinity War, and fans were not having how they portray that. So what is going on there? I mean, is this actually true?
No, I'm telling you, it beggars belief. It's like, if it hadn't really happened, I'd be telling you it was a lie. But so what had happened is that Avengers Infinity War, which was the highest grossing film of last year with 2.3 billion. Second was Black Panther. This has now arrived on the Netflix platform in America only. Then it will subsequently go to other territories. But it's only been there for a few days, and all that, people have seen it in the cinema. But what the fans were saying is that when you go into Netflix and you select it, they have that mini bio before you click play. And in the bio, it's described Thanos, who's the villain, as an intergalactic sociopath. They were having none of it. They were like, I'm sorry, no, he didn't display the cruelty or the lack of self-conscious which is associated with sociopaths. Thanos is not a sociopath. So they kept saying this so much on Twitter, and it became so overwhelming for Netflix, they actually backed down, deleted the original description, and put in a new one that said invader, annihilator, so-called savior, Thanos. And I was like, are you kidding me? But I'm telling you, Netflix is a consumer brand, and when the consumers bark, they bow.
Honestly speaking, but you see, it makes me wonder, does Netflix really know these movies, or they just get them? Like, you know what, it's trending, let's pick it up. Putting some type of, intro, whatever, just let them watch the movie. Anyways, Judita, Netflix is going to be fine because they have so many movies right now. They're literally everybody's go-to place. Okay, so before we leave you today, Judita, we know that you have some goodness to make us, very happy and make our weekend fantastic, and that is a final video. So for today, what will your recommendation be?
Well, we're going to start the year embracing, because I know last year you told me you want to get into more thrillers, so I've got a nice thriller for you. It's coming out tomorrow. It's all about this game that people can play where you have to figure out the clues or you die. So it's high octane, a lot of thrills, a lot of spills, and a lot of danger. And it stars the actress from True Blood and also Daredevil. And it is out tomorrow, and it's called Escape Room. I hope you like it.
Little boxes on the hillside. Little boxes made of ticky-tacky, little boxes on the hillside, and they all look just the same.
You want to control your life, but life isn't a science experiment. You can't contain your world forever. Try doing one thing that scares you over break, okay?
Yeah. This serves as an entry voucher
for Minos escape rooms.
Be the first to escape our most immersive room yet.
And win $1 million.
So, when does the game start?
I think this is the escape room. We should look for clues.
What are we looking for here?
Anything that looks like a puzzle or a code. It looks like an oven dial.
That looks real.
It's kind of warming up in here.
Excuse me, we'd like our hit now, please.
Well, that's creepy as hell.
Is it getting hotter?
How do we get out of here?
It's Fahrenheit 451. Got it!
Talk about immersive.
What's wrong with you? That was real.
Whoa. Dumb question. Are we outside? The sooner we get this figured out, the sooner we get the hell out of here. Who would do this?
Little boxes on the hillside. Little boxes made of ticky-tacky.
They're watching us. They know every move that we're making.
There's a blue one.
They knew everything about us.
This is my hospital bed.
Me too.
They made these rooms for us.
Have you ever seen things that weren't there before?
I am not imagining this.
Surviving is a choice.
I want to let me out of here.
That's why they chose us.
And they all look
Yep, I think we know what we'll be watching this weekend. Well, that is all from Judita De Silva, and that is all from us as well. So from everyone here in Lagos and over in London, thank you so much for watching the show. And remember, you can catch us every weekday at 4 p.m. right here on the Arise News channel. So until next time, I'm Kachi Ofia, and this has been Arise 360.